Bonjour et bienvenue. Welcome to Straight Through the Channel. I am Laurine, I teach French in a British university, and I am here to help you understand this funny language frogs eaters speak over the channel. This video will focus on explaining how a verb works and what conjugation is. As you remember from the video on the sentence structure, the verb is the action word, and the subject is what or who is performing the action. For example, in this sentence, joue is le verbe and Bart is le sujet. In these sentences, the words underlined in red are the verbs. Now, if we compare these three sentences, Homer mange un donut, Homer et Marge mangent un donut, tu manges un donut. We can see that the verb mange, even though it is pronounced in the exact same way, has its spelling altered depending on the subject, and that the verb in the English version is also different depending on the subject. If we have a look at these sentences, especially the English translation, it is quite obvious that the form of the verb is wrong. Whether it is in French or in English, the verb must always go with the subject. We say that the verb must agree with the subject. This is what we call an agreement or un accord. In this example, Homer mange with ENT at the end is an agreement mistake or une faute d'accord. So we have seen that the verb can take a different form. It is called conjugation or conjugaison. Conjugaison is a variation of the form of the verb. We have seen that the verb changes form depending on its subject or person. Here, you have one of the possible conjugations of the verb manger, to eat. From the form of the verb, you can often guess the tense, the mood, which you don't need to worry about for now, and the person. If we take this form, mange, am eating, of the verb manger, we know that it is happening in the present tense. In English, am eating can only refer to the first person of the singular, while in French it can be the first or third person of the singular. If you cannot remember what the persons are, here is a reminder. You have three persons that can be singular or plural. Je, tu, il, elle, nous, vous, il, elle. All of these small words referring to a person are called pronoms personnels, personal pronouns. So we have seen how the form of a verb changes according to the person. Now let's have a look at these sentences. Homer a mangé un donut. The action has already happened. This is past, passé. Homer mange un donut. The action is happening right now. This is present tense, présent. Homer mangera un donut. The action will happen later in the future. This is future tense, futur. The verb therefore changes form according to a person and a tense. We say that the verb is conjugated with different persons and in different tenses. Each verb also has a neutral form when it is not used with a person nor with a tense. This neutral form is called the infinitive or l'infinitif. In English, the infinitive always starts with to, as in to eat, to finish, to sell. In French, the infinitive can have different endings such as er, manger, ir, finir, and re, vendre. To make French conjugation slightly easier, verbs are classified in three different groups depending on the endings. Er verbs are part of the first group. Some verbs ending in ir are part of the second group, and all of the others are part of the third group. Now let's do an exercise together. From this form of the verb danse, we need to find as much information as possible, such as the infinitive, which is the neutral form of the verb, the tense or time reference, and the person. So, what is the infinitive of are dancing? It's to dance, danser in French. When is the action happening? In the present tense, le présent. And what can be the person? In French, ENT is the third person of the plural. In English, are dancing can be the second person of singular or any person of the plural. Good. Now, let's have a look at these sentences and focus on the verbs. Omer a 3 enfants. Omer a mangé un donut. Omer est américain. Omer est né en Amérique. Why are these sentences different? If we focus on the conjugated verbs, in sentence 1, the conjugated verb is to have, avoir, while in sentence 2, the conjugated verb is to eat, manger. In sentence 3, the conjugated verb is to be, être, while in sentence 4, the conjugated verb is to be born, naître. Être, to be, and avoir, to have, can therefore be used to help conjugate all the verbs in different tenses, such as past. These helping verbs are called auxiliaires. In French, you have 2 auxiliaires, être, to be, and avoir, to have. In English, you also have to be and to have, as well as several other verbs. You can remember some of them as they do not take to for the infinitive. For example, you can't say tu could or tu should. In French, you have another kind of funny verbs. If you look at these examples, and their very literal translation in English, you can see that in French, some verbs need tiny little words in front of them. These words change according to the person that they reflect. They are called pronoms réfléchis, or reflexive pronouns. For example, je me trompe, tu te rases, ils, elles se battent, nous nous maquillons, vous vous garez, ils se souviennent. As they need the reflexive pronouns to be conjugated, we call these verbs pronominal verbs, verbes pronominaux. Now, let's summarize this lesson. The action word or verb is conjugated depending on the person, often expressed by a personal pronoun, and the tense or time reference, such as past, present, or future. In the sentence, the verb must agree with the subject. For example, Omer sont américains is not correct because the verb is not conjugated properly. It is called an agreement mistake, une faute d'accord. Every verb has an unconjugated version, which is called the infinitive, l'infinitif. In English, the infinitive often starts with to. In French, infinitives have different endings such as er, ir, or re. There are funny verbs like the helping verbs or auxiliaries, auxiliaires, which are used to conjugate another verb. For example, in Omer a mangé, the verb avoir, to have, is used only to conjugate to eat, manger. In French, there are 2 auxiliaries, avoir and être, but there are a lot more auxiliaries in English. Another kind of funny verbs exist in French. They need to be conjugated with a little word called reflexive pronoun. Because they need these pronouns, they are called pronominal verbs, les verbes pronominaux. Now is the end of this lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. À bientôt!